Hey there, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the part 5 of our Python programming tutorial series for beginners, and in this part we will talk about string methods. So in the earlier part we talked about strings and one of its method like format, and we also saw functions like print, input, etc. So in this part we will dwell more on that, but basically focusing on strings. So let me first write a string first. So let's say we have, so this is the string that we can experiment on, and if we want to print the length of that string, so len is a function that lets us find length of several objects. So we can have a string, length of a string, length of a list, length of a tuple. So list and tuple, we'll see something later on in the series. And if we want, we can just print this length, print len, pass the string, and if we run this file python, so I have saved this as tutorial5.py, and you find it 22. So it might be difficult to count it right now, so we will just short down on our string. So you see 3 because it has 3 letters in it, and that's why we have 3. So restore it back. And one more thing, so in this video we will be experimenting a lot with small methods like upper, lower and all. So instead of like applying the method in this text, in this py file, and then running the code here again and again, we can directly come into our experimentation mode. So just write Python over in your terminal and you will enter a shell mode. So in this case you can basically directly do experimentation and write small pieces of code. And here to print something you don't have to write print also. Suppose if I have done this and I just do s, then basically you just write the name of the variable and it will automatically print its value. So you don't have to write print here. But when you write your code in this py file, you have to write print explicitly. Okay, so now we experiment with different methods over here, and suppose we have our string as the programming jungle. So there are several string methods. Some of them are like .upper. So first of all, if you want to find len again, we can just do length. Or if you want to find length again, we can just do len and length gets printed here. And if we want to do something like we want to convert this into uppercase, we can use .upper method. Let me just zoom this a bit. We can use s.upper. If we want to convert everything into lowercase, we can just do s.lower and we have everything in lowercase. If we want to just capitalize every first letter of every word and lowercase every other word, so we do something like s.title. So you see this got bigger, this p still remained bigger, j remained bigger, and the rest all the letters became small. So for that you can use s.title method. And one subtle point here is that all these methods are basically returning a new string. So whenever you print s is still the same, it hasn't changed. So there is a concept of immutability of string in Python. What that means is that any string that you have, basically this is the string object, this string is immutable. You cannot change this string directly. So that's why whenever you run any method or any function on it, this string does not change ever. If you want, you can reassign a new string to the variable. So what you can do is, if you assign s.upper to s, what this does is this returns a new string which has this form, and it reassigns it to s variable. Now when you print s, you get the same effect that you have changed the string, but actually you haven't changed the string, you just have reassigned it with a new string. Okay, so now let me just quickly tell you the difference between methods and functions. So methods are something that use a dot notation with them. So suppose when I do s.upper, this is a method, and if I do, methods are also functions, but these are functions that are applicable to certain kind of objects. Like if you see upper method, it is specifically bound to string objects, so it can be only applied to string objects. And to access methods we use a dot. We will talk more about methods in our upcoming video later on when we talk about classes and their methods. And len if we see, or print if we see, these are general purpose functions. So they take some arguments, like len can take a string or a list or a tuple, and print takes whole bunch of variables and just print their forms. So these are general purpose functions, and dot notation is basically for methods. So let's talk about more string methods. If we have something like, suppose we have a string and where we have some empty characters at the end or the start of the string. Now if we use s.strip, so we get this. So s.strip, what it does is it basically removes all the white space characters from your start and the end of the string. Now let's talk about something that is an important concept, that is the concept of indexing in Python language. If we see about indexing in Python starts from 0. So we call it a zero based indexing. If you see Java and C++, they also follow the same way. So in strings and list, what you have is the first letter or first item will be having index 0 and so on. So if we want to do something like, suppose we have s is equals to abc and we want to have s0. So what s0 will give us, it will give us a, and s1 will give us b, s2 will give us, correct, you're correct, it will give us c, and s3, 3 is the length, but we don't have any index because this is 0, this is 1 first and this is second. S3 will give us, let me show you what it will give us. So let me clear this, so I can clear this using Command K in Mac. I don't know the shortcut for Windows and I'm not sure if they have any. So now let's see. So what you can do, if you want to just come out of it, you can do Control Z or Control C to come out of this, and you can again start a new shell here. And if you want, so I have s is equals to abc, and now I want to do s1, I get b, and now when we do s3 we get an index error because this strings only support indexes from 0, 1 and 2, and 3 is basically out of this string. That's why we get this error. Now let's discuss the concept of negative indexing in Python. So this indexing method is not there in other programming languages. And so what it does is, suppose if I want to do something like s minus 1. What this basically means is we start from the end now. And this will be represented as -1, this will be represented as -2, and this will be represented as -3. So s minus 1 will be c, and s minus 3, as you guessed it, it will be a, and s minus 4 will again give us an error because we don't have anything before a. Okay, so now that we are done with some basic methods in Python for strings and indexing, let's talk about some of other functions that we have for strings, that is find, replace and in operator and count method. Yeah, let's do this. Okay, so again I have string like I am a hero, sorry for the joke, and s.find. If I want to find something in this string, I want to find some substring in the string. If I want to find am, I will get basically the first index where Python is able to find am in this string. So I is at 0th index, this space is at first index, and this a is at second index. So as we are able to find this am from the second index, I get 2 a. And if I want to find hero, this is at 7th index. And now if we want to find a, so we find it at 2, but you will say that a is here also. So what find method returns us? It returns us only the first occurrence of an element, and that's why we have 2 over here. Now let's go to replace method. So what replace method lets us do is, it replaces any character or any substring that we want in a string to some other string. Suppose I want to replace am with something like wanna be, so I get I wanna be a hero. Now talking about immutability, s is string, same. Replace is just returning us another string. If we want s to change, we just do s.replace, and then that way we will get it. So now let's suppose we can also change a letter here. Suppose I change a to, let's say a, and we print s. So the subtlety here is always find the first occurrence but replace. What replace does it? It will replace all the occurrences. So here we have A, so it has replaced it with all A's. Here we have A, so here it has replaced all with A. So this is the difference between find and replace method apart from their functionality. And let's talk about count. So if we want to count number of occurrences of an element or a character or a substring in a string, we just do s.count A. So we have 10 A's now. You see 5 A's here, 5 A's here. And not just limited to characters, we can actually find occurrences of substrings. So we have a occurrence of hero one time over here. And now that we are done, so just want to mention one more thing, like suppose we want to find s.find something which is not in the string. Let's say we find B, so we get index as -1. So when something is not present in a string, it returns as -1. And now if we want to just find if something is there or not, and we don't want to find its index, or we don't have to do anything with its index, we just want to find a true or false value, like is this present or not, we can use in operator. So in operator is not a method, not a function, it's an operator, and it requires 2 operands to work with it. So we do like A in S. So you see here in is an operator, and when we do it we find true. And suppose we want to find B in S, so we don't have B in S, that's why we get false. And let's say we want to find hero in S, we have this, and we want to find 0 in S, we don't have it. So these are the range of functions and operators we can use to manipulate strings and have strings. So now we haven't written much code over here. Let's directly jump to our exercise, because we were in the experimentation mode today and it was like just simple 1 or 2 lines of code. Just one small thing I want to reiterate: if you want to print any of these things from the code, you will have to use the print function explicitly. Because if you want to do something like s is equals to abc, and you want to find maybe let's say s.find a, and you run this, you won't get anything. So I come out of it using Control Z, and so you don't get anything. To print it, you will have to explicitly use print command. And let me clear the screen and I run it again, and here we have it 0. So this 0 represents that A is at the 0th index. Okay, so now when we are done with this, let's jump to our exercise. So this is a straightforward exercise. You have to predict the output of the following code. So just take some time and try to think and write your output in your copy or somewhere else, or keep it in your mind, and then we will talk about what should be the output and what gets printed on the screen when we execute this file. So just hit pause now. Okay, so now I think you might have done it, or at least have made an honest attempt at doing it. So let's discuss what's the output. So I will write the outputs as comments here. So when s.upper is called, so this won't print anything on console because there is no print command over here. And since this string programming exercise is immutable, s.upper won't change s, and thus s is still equal to this value over here. So just write it over here. S is still equal to this because this method returns another string, but that string is kind of ignored here because we haven't assigned it to anything and we haven't even printed it. So s is still the same and strings are immutable. Now when we print it, we get this as the output. So let's write the output. This is, we say, got printed. So I'm using this annotation, this notation to say that this will get printed on the screen. Now when we call s.lower, similar thing happens, s won't change, and so we still have s is equals to this odd looking programming exercise. And now when we print s0, since s has not been lowered, s0 is simply p, and thus p gets printed on the screen in uppercase. When we print s.title, so s will still remain same because we haven't assigned s to s.title, but what will be printed on the screen is, let me just write it, it will take less time for me to write it. Exercise. So now what we have is we have s.upper, so it basically returns a string that is all uppercase programming exercise, and we are assigning it to s. So s has now changed, and we get the change as basically, so all caps exercise. Now when we print s, this gets printed. Let me just copy paste it, and till then you focus on the next operation. We print s2, this prints in uppercase, and here I have -2. So this is -1, this is -2, so we have uppercase s over here. Now we replace all the r instances in the above with ROR. Now since replace also returns a new string and we are not printing anything, s will remain same over here and nothing gets printed in this case. So just mentioning it over here. Now when we print s, still we get programming exercise over here. Prompt. Now finally we are replacing r with ROR, and the string that we get, we are assigning it to x. So now what we should have here is, let's say s got changed and r replaced by ROR, r replaced by ROR, and r replaced by ROR. So as a small exercise, just try to pronounce it, maybe programming exercise. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Now we print s, this gets printed simply. Oh, sorry, Control C. We print this. Now we find ROR. So ROR is at the first index, so it should print 1 on the screen on the terminal. And if we try to find, this is an operator, it only returns boolean value, true or false. So if we try to find if we have ROG ROR, so here we have ROG ROR in our string, so the answer is true. So we will get true over here. We don't have any ABC, so we will get false over here. Now if we want to count s.count OR, let's see how many ORs we have. We have 1 OR here, then 1 OR here, and then 1 OR here. So this should print 3, and these are also printed. So let me write this notation. And with len s, so len s is, so whatever it is does not matter, because len will not get printed because we don't have a print function over here. So let's just quickly run our code and verify if we have made some mistake or not. So let me just go to the side. So we run this, and here we are printing programming exercise correctly. Here we are printing P. Here we are printing programming exercise. So wherever we have this notation, we are printing those things. So here we have, let's see. Here we are printing P. Then, okay, this is printing. Okay. We are printing programming exercise. We are printing programming exercise in all caps. We are printing O. We are printing S. We are printing again S in all caps. Now we are printing R programming exercise. Here we have it, this one. Then we are printing 1, then we are printing 2, then we are printing 4, then we are printing 3, and that's the end of the function. Yeah. So this is all correct, and so that will be the end of the video. So I will document everything in this tutorial file and will put it on my GitHub repo and post the link in the description box. So GitHub repo is something where we store our code. So just go to that link and you will be able to access this tutorial file and this exercise and the code associated with it. That's for your reference, and I think that should be good for now. In the next video, we will discuss about integers, floats, and the numerical data and things around it. So till then, stay cool, humble, and just practice programming.